So, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, taking time out of your day. I know you're all extremely busy. So, I'm going to try and pack in as much as I can so you can get as much value out of this 20 minutes, let's say. And we're going to get kicked off now. We have a full room there. So, we're starting off with our hotel daily firewalk webinar this morning. We have here the silent threat to the hotel. We'll talk a wee bit more about that. We have a free toolkit here that'll help you implement what we're talking about. So, just a bit of housekeeping. Hopefully, you can all hear me. If you have any issues, you hear me, give us a wee shout on the chat. You can all see that on your right hand side. And hopefully, you can see me. And everything's reasonably tidy behind me. And as we go through, you can pop up questions in the chat. And indeed, then you can ask me questions afterwards. So I hope that's all clear. So why am I in front of you? Why should I run this webinar? Well, look, in a few previous lives, I worked in facility management. Had the responsibility of trying to manage this task of fire safety and routine checks. And it's difficult. It takes time and you need processes. And I've felt the pain of it, trying to manage it and trying to audit it. I'm also a fire safety engineer, so I come from that safety background in regards academia. I also was a firefighter, so I was not only understood trying to manage this, but also responding to it and how it affects when something goes wrong. I spent then some time as a fire prevention officer, so carrying out the inspections, dealing with hotel general managers, dealing with the issues, trying to get them resolved, and trying to give them get them to a stage where they understood the risk that they were having in their hotel by not doing this correctly. And I also lecture in the local university on fire safety and fire engineering. So the hotel fire safety walk, it has a few names, but in general, it's a walk of the hotel by a duty manager normally that's on for that shift. And why do we do it? I think sometimes it depends. The two top reasons can be is that the insurance company has done an audit and they have seen gaps in this process. The fire officer has been in and they've said that they're not complying with the fire safety laws of that area. So that's two motivators. It's also part of the fire safety management, obviously. People combine it and give it more value by using it for energy management, which is a larger thing that's coming into play now. So in certain areas, are the lights off, or things switched on, and things switched off? So it's a view of that. Security, obviously, it's somebody walking the building, ensuring all the doors are closed and open at certain times in areas that you would normally be during your shift. Slip, trips, and falls is another one, and guest management. So, guest management, number one, somebody walking around the hotel, but number two, the areas that you don't normally go to on a Saturday night, maybe at 3 a.m., just ensuring there's nobody there, nobody in difficulty. So it combines and it can give more value than just fire safety. Right. Symptoms of poor fire safety management or uh, issues that come up as a somebody's been through it, or as a fire officer coming in, or now as a general manager, you're just having a look. Some of these photographs took a bit of twist, but that's fine. But look, we've all seen these issues. We've all seen blocked exits. We've all seen fire doors wedged open, missing fire extinguishers after a Saturday night. You arrive there on a Monday morning. and you're kind of ad hocly addressing these things. And sometimes the biggest telltale sign is when you walk into a hotel, and normally the fire panel is behind reception, and it's not in a normal state. There's some fault, there's an issue with it. And if there's not a good process in place, there's not a good walk in place, this sometimes becomes the normal. Blocked escape routes, obstructed fire doors wedged open, exit signage faults, faults in the fire panel, faults not repaired, taking a long time, missing fire extinguishers, frequent false alarms, which is a big one, and complaints either by guests or complaints from the guest to the fire service and having an inspection. Now, I hope that I'm hitting the right symptoms here that you may feel that you have seen or is coming up for you. So the problem, and this is a bit text heavy, but I want for us to clearly understand the problem before we can push to a solution. So hotels are high risk because you've guests in there, they're sleeping and they're unfamiliar with the building, as opposed to being in your office and during the day and you've been there a few times, you're awake, and if there's an alarm got off, you generally know the exit. These people are new to the building, they're asleep, and probably what is unwritten is that they have their family with them, they have their personal belongings, they may have had a large meal and maybe a few drinks. So this evacuation process is slowed down, and there's a large amount of people, and sometimes not a great amount of staff in the evenings. So everybody has a legal obligation, whether you're a guest or you're the general manager or the deputy general manager or the ops, you have a responsibility to take reasonable measures to ensure to prevent the outbreak of fire. And that's a question I want you to ask yourselves: is, if something happened here, have I done a reasonable job? It requires significant resources to manage this, and that's why building a process uh, kind of reduces that. Safety concerns by guests. So we're getting more and more now where the guest is not coming to reception. They're taking the photograph and they're putting it up online, and you're seeing it a couple of hours later, and it's not great looking, and it can be bad news. Spreads quickly, as we know. General manager supervision of these routine daily checks, maybe 30 points by 3 walks per day, 90 checks over a week, over a month. It's unfeasible sometimes to be hand holding people and checking this all the time. So the the escalation of issues can be a problem if it's not a clear process, and in larger hotel groups to face problems of trying to manage all this over multiple hotels. Lack of proof of completion. Sometimes the records aren't there when you go to look at them, uh, and maybe the frustrations are when something goes wrong. This all falls down like a house of cards. I think we've launched a poll there. So, just as a quick question, if you can see it'll pop up for you, and we just see it here as a percentage really. How many firewalks do you currently complete in one day at the minute? Just to get an idea of where you should be at. Okay, great. So I really wanted this slide to, you know, build up, but it didn't work out for us today. But what I want to get across here is that we normally have a duty manager or somebody on a shift that's conducting this walk, as you say, um, and it's hopefully their responsibility to complete this correctly if they've been trained and they've been instructed. And my situation is when something happened in a building when I was responsible for this, when I went to check to see if it was done correctly, it wasn't done correctly. And the question was, were they trained? Did they have a correct procedure to do it? it can be you always have to do a reasonable job. So the duty manager decides on Tuesday night that, you know what, I'm going to prioritize something else over this tonight because this seems to be more of a priority. But this firewalk is a statutory task, and should nothing should prioritize it. But when it's not been managed or not been checked, it can be deprioritized. This affects maintenance if there's a fault in the fire panel. It can affect the night manager if there's blocked exits and they have to do an evacuation. That then can affect the general manager, the deputy manager, if there's an issue. The hotel ops will be involved if there's multiple hotels. Then we have the fire service responding. So if there's a blocked exit and they're entering a building that's smoke filled with people evacuating, it's slowing down the evacuation of the people and the extinguishment of the fire. And we all know it doesn't take a fire long to become out of control where you lose the building. The board of directors, if it's a larger company, shareholders, but most of all, I think in my own family in a hotel, the people that are staying there. So the importance of this walk, every walk, is very, very valuable. So, right, let's get on to business. How do we build this firewalk? This is the way that has been developed for us and for myself over 10 years, talking to multiple hotels, responding to multiple fires, and the best process for building your firewalk, but also your other routine checks, the foundation of it. So, building an asset register. So, what does that mean? We need to build in the exact points that need to be checked. And I would assume that you have done something like that, but we're going to go through it. And you can use this as an audit, or you can use it as an ability to start to build one. So the key one is the final exit. And we basically know all our final exits. The doors that lead to fresh air, the termination of the escape route. So everybody is going to come out a final exit. And outside that final exit, you have the external escape route. And we can see there, actually in this photograph, the bricks isn't as should be. Maybe they're. I actually had shown this photograph in another talk, and what they had said is when they opened the final exit doors, some of the stones in the bottom left hand side were getting caught under the door, and this was restricting the exit capacity of the door. So this is why it's good to open these doors and check that this is working in a dry form where there's no emergency. Um, so that's final exits. They're the termination of the escape route. Slide, next slide. So we can see here, this is just a general plan layout. This is the ground floor. And we can see kind of from the middle there, we have the circular stairs to the right-hand side. And we have these escape routes. You can see the double doors right through the building. And you see I've marked up number 1, which is the main entrance, which is a final exit. Number 2 is at the bottom of the escape stairwell. That's the final exit. That's the one leading to fresh air. And as we go right round, you see if I've been able to identify them. And what I used to do when I was doing an inspection, in order for me to collect or to ensure or audit that I was gathering all these final exits, I would walk the exterior of the building, make the count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And when I went into the building, I made sure that I identified 9 final exits, because sometimes these escape stairwells can go to the ground floor and have their own exit that's not part, you can't see it internally. Okay. The next most important and part of legislation really is that you check the fire panel is free from fault every day. And if there's a fault, you should report it immediately and it should fall under the process that you have set out of how it's going to be fixed. If we can't hear the alarm, we can't start the evacuation and everything's delayed. Stairwell. So as we rise through the floors, first floor, second floor, third floor, at the end of the bedroom corridors, you have story exits. And you're moving from a protected corridor into a place of relative safety when you go into the escape stairwell. Normally, the escape stairwell is constructed with fire rated construction, and this door at the top is a fire door and self closing. So these escapers need to be clear. That door needs to be closing, and it also protects the corridor. So other areas that need to be checked, and for me, this is one of the bigger ones, is if you have a laundry. In my experience, what happens is there is people working in the laundry. It's high humidity, high heat, low ventilation, likely in the basement. The main door is wedged open, allow for airflow, and you can see here on the right hand side there's another window. So what happens is they create a funnel of air. This does two things. It allows oxygen and a good flow within the room. And when things become, hot enough and they have enough oxygen and the fuel, it either simmers or starts to move into flame. And now what we have is we have like a chimney effect through and out the main door, and sometimes that door can be connected to an escape stairwell. In the number of cases that I was involved in, it was. So it contaminated the escape stairwell. People from the third floor that were escaping opened that door and it was contaminated with smoke. Disaster. Panic. The other thing is that I've seen people put on routine checks of checking the filter. Sometimes that's the start of the fire. Plant rooms, boiler rooms, comms rooms, other types of stores. They're all seen as places of special fire risk. They normally are constructed of fire rated construction and have a fire door. Now you need to assess in your building. Are these checked by maintenance? Are they checked by a duty manager? Are they part of the day check only? Do you want somebody going out to the roof at night to check the boiler room? This is something to consider. Plant rooms, boiler rooms are often, and comms rooms. If you have a suppression system in there, you may want to check the panel when you're in there. They're often part of a routine check. Kitchen, high risk area, canteens, tea stations, large commercial kitchens. Sometimes you have suppression systems in here, part of the check. Normally, the kitchen is located near the function room. The function room has a double door or two doors in and out that are going between the function room and the kitchen. And if these doors are not working correctly, the likelihood of that fire contaminating your function room and having an evacuation is very, very high. But what I would also say in this is that the fire doesn't always happen when you're there. The fire can happen at 3 a.m. in the morning, and that area can be completely contaminated by the time even the fire is detected. So fire doors reduce the damage to your building, and it's not the fire; it's the smoke and the smell and the contamination that takes the time to get out of a building. We're coming near the end now of these routine checkpoints that I suggest that you would review or build in. So we talked about the final exit, and outside that final exit, we have an escape route that leads us. We can't get into a back store that's locked that we can't go any further because smoke billowing from a building would affect if you're only within a backyard. So it's the external escape routes. And often when I would be in a hotel, they would say, "This is the final exit." I would open the final exit, yet I would find another gate further that had a lock on it. So people of 100 or 150 people, they wouldn't physically be able to get out the door. It wouldn't have the capacity to hold them, and they would be climbing over the gate in panic, and it would be not a good situation. So the external escape routes are important, and often fire hydrants can be obstructed. And if you think about this, if you have a fire tonight in your hotel and the fire service is called, there is two questions that that responding officer is going to be asking en route to himself and be ready to ask you when he steps out of the vehicle. Is everyone out? And where's your water supply? That water supply is going to be key in extinguishing your fire. And if you have a car parked in front of it, or the lid is stiff, or you haven't checked it in ever or in months, or it's the marker plate's down, or it's a key bit of infrastructure for fighting fires. And I would suggest, whether it's on the daily, that you include it. Just is it clear and unobstructed? And sometimes there's a pattern that arises to say that a car's parking on it, a car's parking on it, or some member of staff just uses this area. Through identifying that, you can put a process in place, or uh, make the staff aware, or make that area hatched in some way. And recording that and showing that, if you needed to show evidence, it's a great example of how you're managing fire safety and you're being responsible. The check on the day isn't valuable until you need it. And that check on that particular day, and the checks that backed it up for the last 2 months, is very strong evidence that you were managing fire safety. So each one of these are so important. In general, when we're walking these routes, we're looking at the escape signage. So we have directional emergency lighting, which basically tells us the direction to leave. And then we have, within areas of change of direction, stairwells, you might see on the right hand side, you have as you go down the stairs, you would have a light with a green LED in it. It just indicates that the battery in there is good, and that's an emergency light. And if the power cuts out, that light will stay on by the battery. Portable firefighting equipment. It's easy enough, if you're trained and aware. Walk in the building. If you see one of these missing, it's quite obvious. And this may be the Sunday morning walk where somebody has moved it, somebody's discharged it even. And if you have a wee Google maybe of a fire in a Scottish hotel, you'll see how this fire extinguisher is critical. I won't bring that up, but if you just have a Google, it was in the news recently. Right, so I really want to drive it home here now. I really want to give you a real life example. And this is a fire I attended. It started in the laundry. Wet clothes, overloaded, filters not being cleaned, windows open, fire door wide open. This contaminated the escape stairwell and slowed down the response by the fire service, the evacuation of the guests, caused panic. This was 3 o'clock in the morning. It was raining outside. I remember there was a bride outside. It was just disastrous. And it was absolutely clear that fire safety management was not being looked after in this hotel, because it had all the symptoms that I showed you at the start. Faults in the fire panel, uh, fire doors wedged open, escape routes blocked, the hydrant was hard to find, all delays. The two photographs to the right hand side, you can just about see it on the photograph on the right. I don't know if my pointer works here, but you can see a couch, the outline of a blue couch. that was smouldering for a few hours, then burst into flames in a back stairwell. And if you can look at D003, which is door 003, was wedged open. The smoke, not the flames, the smoke from this small couch penetrated this 4-story building. And you can see the stairwell with the green rail. And you can see the firefighters' footprints. This is a couple of hours after the fire. You can see the firefighters' hand marks trying to make their way up the stairwell. So how could we ask somebody to evacuate through this? It's a very scary situation to be in. Okay. Most hotels schedule their firewalks approximately, in my experience, every 8 hours. It's normally like a 12 to 7 for the night shift, an early 7 to 3, and a 3 to 12 again. And that covers the day. Part of that is first check normally is fire panel and working from your final exits up to your store exits and all the other auxiliary checks that you include in that, or maybe maybe for instance you don't include in the spa or the pool because it's closed at that time of the night. So what we're going to do, I think we've opened up the download there. We're going to give you just a small template to allow you to start to either identify these assets and build them into a check. But a few tips that I would talk about: roles and responsibilities. So it's if a duty manager has this role and has this responsibility, it has to be clear to him him or her has to do, when they have to do it, and how they have to do it. If you're asking your deputy general manager to bring this evidence to you in a weekly meeting, it has to be clear his roles and responsibilities. And also, as a general manager or a group general manager, your responsibilities and what the expectations are. So we have clear procedures for reporting issues. It's not I told him, he told me. It's clear for reporting high risk. When I talk about high risk is that the fire panel has gone completely off. Who do I ring? What do I do? The write up of an SOP, so a procedure, and having somebody that already trained in that SOP do the walk with the new member of staff. A very good one, and I'll tell you a few reasons why it's good, is the general manager, either weekly or monthly, conducts a walk. What that does is it ensures that it's up to your standard. But the last person doing the walk will understand that you're coming behind them. If you don't schedule it, you just do it weekly, they don't know whether you're coming next. So it'll give more prioritization to this walk and they'll take it that bit more seriously. And have somebody bring that. It's very hard to manage all this and manage this paperwork. So have somebody responsible to bring them records on a weekly or monthly basis to a routine meeting and set aside 5 minutes to have an audit of them. And I think that's a reasonable job that you would be doing at that stage. So, look, we can only give a very overview of our processes that we feel that's been implemented in hundreds of hotels that we've worked with. We can't give specifics, but hopefully it got you thinking of what your existing is or how many you're doing. Um, and look, I would encourage you, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll address them now. To wind up, the reason that we know and I know so much about this is based on what I said at the start, but also we have a software that manages this process and cuts out that accountability and the time that it takes to manage this, the quick resolution of issues. So that's something we provide, and it's something that has been very effective for single hotels and group hotels. And that's called FireCloud 365. So next steps for yourselves is you can download the Hotel General Manager's Guide, and that'll give you the templates. You can adopt them or change them or use them how you want or use it for training. You can book a one-on-one call with myself, and I can go through any specifics that you want to go through, or just have an audit or a chat or any other questions you have around fire safety. This is one small aspect, but it's routine for a hotel. We have the weekly, monthly, quarterly. So I hope this was of some benefit to you. It's hard kind of talking. This software here doesn't allow us to interact on video, but hopefully you've got some value out of it. And if you've had any questions, I'd love to answer them. Okay. Uh, Fire hydrant routine checks are every 6 months. So that check is you ensure that the lid is canary yellow. You check that the pit is free from water and debris. You flush out the hydrant using a key and a standpipe, and you ensure that the marker plate is clear and visible. That may be in a wall or a marker post. I think we're running into 35 minutes here, so hopefully that was all informative and you just got a bit of value out of it. John, do we have the guide up there? Handouts. There's the guide now. So that guide should be available for you to download now. I'll jump off here now and leave that for 60 seconds. Thank you very much for joining. I hope that this has been helpful and that you can implement it in your hotel. Thank you very much for joining.